Chapter 9. Hannah rushed outside when she saw the town car pull into the circular driveway. She watched as Derek stepped out of the car first and then held out his hand to help his mother out. He flashed her a smile, and she thought about the first time they had met. She had caught him staring at her in the library. That smile was the first thing she remembered about him. She had smiled back at the handsome young man, noticing his deep brown eyes. His smile still melted her heart. Almost from day one they had spent every day together. He was perfect, and sometimes it felt like the universe had made him just for her. They had everything in common and had never once had a fight. He was kind and loving and had never spoken a harsh word to her. She felt like she had to work at being as perfect as he was. His parents had been welcoming to her from the beginning and invited them often to their lake house on the weekends. She was so caught up in being perfect that sometimes she felt like a fraud. She knew he was going to propose to her soon, and her secret weighed heavily on her. She would have to tell him she was fate before they married. She hoped he wouldn't think she was a freak, or worse yet, she feared that he would stop loving her. She was almost certain he would accept the news and still want to marry her, though. She smiled back at him, and her mom and dad came out to stand beside her to welcome their first guest. Sawyer had talked to Julius about Harlow's concerns, and they had devised a plan together to put their theory to a test. They stood ready now, waiting to see if Harlow's concerns were justified. "Welcome. We hope you had a good flight," Julius said enthusiastically, and extended a hand to Stephen. "It was wonderful. We didn't hit turbulence once," Stephen said back just as enthusiastically and shook Julius' hand. "Please let the servants attend to your bags and come inside. We've laid out food for everyone arriving, or we can offer you a drink," Sawyer said graciously. "We ate on the plane, but a drink sounds wonderful," Lisa answered as they all walked inside. "Excellent. Follow us to the study while your bags are delivered to your rooms," Julia said, leading the way. Derek looked around as they walked. He felt a pang of regret for a moment. He knew Hannah would marry him, and he could definitely get used to this lifestyle, even if it meant putting up with her for a lifetime. The group continued to exchange pleasantries as they made their way to the study. Marcus and Paul were waiting, seated at a small table playing a game of chess. "Marcus, Paul, do you both remember Derek's parents, Lisa and Stephen?" Sawyer asked. They both stood up and walked across the room to shake hands with their guests. "Yes, of course. How are you both?" asked Marcus as he shook their hands. "Wonderful," Stephen answered for them both again. "Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, it's nice to see you again," Paul said as he shook their hands. "Please, call us Lisa and Stephen," Stephen told the young men, and accepted the drink Julius held out for him. They all took a seat, and Sawyer bragged about Paul. "Paul is studying for his Ph.D. right now," she said offhandedly. "What is your field of study, Paul?" Stephen asked, already knowing the answer. Stephen and Lisa had a full file on each of Sawyer's children. They knew Paul was the child prodigy, and had kept tabs on him, even after the girls they had sent to him all failed. They had sent 3 different girls over the past year, and all had failed. All 3 were different in looks and smarts, but he hadn't shown interest in any of them. They had even sent a young man just to cover their bases. Paul was interested in one thing, and it wasn't love. He was self-disciplined and studious, and nothing could grab his attention except for a book. "Astrophysics," Paul answered. "I myself am an astrophysicist, and my wife is a chemist," Stephen told him. "My Uncle Marcus here is a Ph.D. in both those fields," Paul told them. "That's amazing that you have 2 Ph.D.s, Lisa told Marcus. "I actually have 4, but the other 2 are in history and art," Marcus told them humbly. "Whom do you work for?" Lisa asked nonchalantly. "I'm currently doing a research project for MIT right now," he answered. "What are your plans for the future, Paul?" Stephen asked. "I'm currently writing my thesis on string theory. I'm hoping I can continue in that field after I graduate," he told them. "We have a wonderful internship program at our company if you're ever interested," Lisa offered. "What is the name of your company? I may have already applied there. There have been so many," Paul asked. "Alliance Enterprises," Lisa answered. Paul furrowed his brow and thought, "No, it doesn't sound familiar." "What does Alliance Enterprises focus on?" Marcus asked. "Coincidentally, we're doing a lot of research on string theory at our facility," Lisa answered, and accepted the glass of wine Julius handed her. "If you don't mind me asking, where's your research leading you?" asked Paul. "Well, Without disclosing too much, we're focused on the 11 dimensions. I'm afraid that's as much as I can say, though. Our research is being funded by the military, so we don't have much wiggle room on what we can say, Stephen said. Why would the military be interested in string theory, Paul asked. The military is interested in everything, Marcus answered, knowing all too well the answer to that question. Stephen laughed and said, "No truer words have ever been spoken." Lisa drained her glass and stood up. Stephen took her cue and also stood up. "Well, we should get settled in and then maybe take a walk around outside. That garden looks beautiful." "I would be happy to show you around the grounds after you've gotten settled in," Hannah offered. "That would be wonderful, dear," Stephen told her, and exited the room with his wife and son in tow. Harlow thought she would burst, waiting for them to get out of the earshot. When she heard the elevator's door shut, she said, "Well, something is definitely off about them." All three of their heartbeats were in sync the entire time. "I've never heard anything like it," Julia said. Agreed. Their emotions never fluctuated once. They all apparently felt the exact same way the whole time. Stephen didn't even stir when he laughed, Sawyer said. "Was anyone concerned about the name of their company?" Marcus asked. "I noticed that too, but it could be a coincidence," Julia said. "Could the Alliance have gotten so big they own companies now?" mused Sawyer. "The Alliance has been around as long as we have and was started by old money. I have no doubt they own companies," Marcus said. "How can they be masking their emotions, though?" Harlow said. "Witches," Sawyer answered. "Like the witches in the Black Mist?" asked Harlow, starting to understand the enormity of the situation. "Exactly. We need to be on guard," Sawyer warned. "Do you think they're the ones who put the witches in the Black Mist?" Harlow asked, starting to get scared. "I don't know for sure, but if they did, then they're here for me," Sawyer answered. "We can remove their heads and worry about the facts later," Julia said ruthlessly. "If we are wrong, we break your daughter's heart. We need more information before we proceed. We have all weekend to get it," Sawyer told him. "We need to keep a close eye on Hannah. She still has no idea of our suspicions," Marcus said. "We'll keep her in our sight at all times," Paul said, offering the service of his siblings. "I will take Celine back to Esme. Maybe we can coax more out of her about the science man," Sawyer said. "Good idea. Meanwhile, I will get Lucas and Liam to help us keep an eye on the Sterlings. There are 5 of us who can move undetected. Might as well take advantage of that," Julia said. They all parted ways to get started. "Have you lived here your whole life?" Lisa asked Hannah as they walked through the grounds. "Yes, my mother grew up here also," Hannah answered. "Did your grandparents also live here?" asked Lisa, trying to gather more information about Sawyer. Sawyer had been hard to find anything about. It's like no one existed before her. There were no records of any relatives. Not even a mother or father's name could be located. What little information they had been able to find was from when she attended school, and a close inspection of documents proved them all to be fake. Since she had left school and come here, they couldn't find anything else about her. Even her husband was a mystery. They could find no background on him either. They had never considered opening a history book to look for him. The Alliance team that had come here once had never returned, and so no new information had been gathered about the elusive couple. "Many generations of my family have lived here," Hannah answered, offering the standard lie. "What a remarkable history you must have then. I would love to hear about it," Stephen said. "To be honest, my mother is the one to ask about that. I'm afraid everyone kind of phases out when she starts talking about it. She always tells us when we're older and have children we'll be more interested in it," Hannah said, playing dumb and hoping to change the subject. "Speaking of your mother, how does she stay so young looking? I need some advice. I'm afraid I'm not aging as gracefully as she is," Lisa said. "Now that you mention it, darling, her father looks incredibly good for his age also." "What's their secret, Hannah?" Stephen asked, and they both stared at her for answers. Hannah was beginning to panic under the line of questioning. She couldn't understand why they were asking so many questions about her parents. She wasn't sure she could keep lying under this much pressure. "Good genes, I guess," she said. "Well, I hope our children get your genes then," Derek said, noticing her panic. She looked at him wistfully. "Our children?" she said, and he nodded. When she turned around to continue walking, he shot Lisa and Stephen a dirty look. They were going to blow it. For once, they took his instruction and stopped their questions. Derek could tell Hannah had started to feel cornered by their incessant questioning. He needed her to be relaxed, and he knew if he mentioned anything about their future, she would forget everything else. Lisa gave him a nod of approval. She could see the girl was blinded by her love for Derek. She had to admit Derek had done an amazing job getting her ready. Simon seemed to come walking out of nowhere when they saw him approach. "There you are, Hannah. I've been looking everywhere for you," he exclaimed. "What's going on?" she asked, confused. "Luna and Mother need you, I'm afraid," he said, lying. "Who is that?" asked Derek, never having heard their names. "That is our grandmother and our great-grandmother," Simon said, answering for her. He knew she had trouble lying easily. He turned back to Hannah now and said, "They're waiting for you in their room." And she nodded, understanding she needed to go to the Fae realm. "I'm sorry, you'll have to excuse me," Hannah told Derek and his parents. "No need to be sorry. We will walk with you. I'm sure it would be nice for Derek to meet your grandparents," Lisa offered. "They are tired from their trip, but if you would allow me, I would be happy to continue the tour. The garden goes on for miles," Simon offered. "He's right. Enjoy yourselves. I'll be back soon," Hannah said, and then gave Derek a quick peck on the cheek. "No, no need to keep you wrapped up in our stroll, Simon. I'm sure you're busy yourself. We can make our way through the garden," Lisa said and smiled at him. He smiled back at her. "If you're sure," he asked. "I'm sure. Go with your sister. We'll be fine," she said through gritted teeth. As they walked away, Lisa gave them a scornful look and ripped a flower from its stem angrily. "We almost had her talking," she said, frustrated. "Don't worry, we have all weekend, and she'll do anything I say," Derek said in a cocky tone. "It's fine. We have to go check the tapes anyway." "You're sure you got that one planted in the study?" Stephen asked Lisa. "Yes, of course. I slipped it under the table next to the chair I was in," she answered, annoyed by the question. "Then let's wait a few minutes and then feign heat exhaustion. We can just follow them back in," Stephen said. Julius stood hidden behind a tree. He needed to go to the study before they returned. He left without them ever knowing he had been there. As Hannah walked with Simon, she asked curiously, "What do Luna and Mother want from me?" Simon shrugged. "I don't know," he said honestly. He had told them early what was happening, and so he couldn't imagine what they'd come up with to distract her. He felt their father as he passed them, but he didn't see him. Hannah must have felt it too, because she asked, "What was that?" "Probably me. I haven't gotten used to this new power yet," he lied. Julius entered the house before they did. He searched the study and motioned for Marcus to come look. Marcus came over to inspect the small listening device attached under the side table right where Lisa said it would be. They pulled it and motioned to the stairway. They were in the bedroom of the Sterlings first and quickly found a whole suitcase filled with tiny devices. They listened as their conversation from earlier about their concerns about the Sterlings was replayed for them. Any doubt they might have had were removed. They erased the tape of their conversation and disabled the one small device from under the table. They didn't want them to know they had found anything. They simply wanted them to think that it had malfunctioned. Marcus and Julius were nonchalantly walking out of the study when Simon and Hannah came through the door. "What are you two up to?" Julius asked innocently. "Hannah is going to see Mother," Simon answered. "Hannah's going to see Mother," Simon answered, and Hannah turned left to the ballroom. They stood and watched until she disappeared and then spoke. "They have begun to plant listening devices in this house," Julius told Simon. "Why don't we stop them now, then?" asked Simon. "We need to find out what they're looking for first. If we stop these 3, more will come after them. We need information, not blood. They can't stop what they can't see," Marcus told him. "Marcus and I are going to their lab tonight. We will see if we can find anything," Julius told him of their plans. "I'm going with you," Simon told him. "No, we need you here," Julius answered. "For what?" Simon challenged. "To protect your mother," Julius said. Simon laughed. "We both know she doesn't need protecting. After what I saw last night, I will never worry about her safety again," he told his father. "Besides, it will go faster if I come, unless you two have learned how to wave in a door," he asked. "He has a point, Julius," Marcus conceded. Julius looked at Simon for a moment and finally said, "Fine." Simon looked back at his father. "You know, Dad, I don't need protecting anymore either," he said gently. Julius nodded, but said wisely, "Simon, I will always protect you, no matter how powerful you may become. Sometimes protection isn't about strength." Simon looked at Julius, shocked. It was a rare moment when Julius showed real emotion besides anger. He hugged his father quickly, knowing that was the only response needed. When Hannah finally returned from the Fey realm, she found Harlow waiting for her. Finally, come on, we're all going swimming, Harlow said. No, I have to find Derek. How long have I been gone? She asked her sister. Only an hour, and Derek is at the pool waiting for you. I told him I would hunt you down, Harlow told her. Now hurry up, or our brothers will have him too frightened to talk to you anymore, she teased. Hannah didn't join in on her amusement of the situation. She knew her brothers could be formidable. Simon was always a little intense, but Paul, when provoked, was even deadlier. After seeing her mother fighting using the dark energy, she understood where Paul got it from. He looked so calm and sweet all the time, but underneath it was underneath it all was someone few had ever seen. She had only seen it a handful of times when he had been protecting her in the human realm, but she knew he possessed a darkness. She imagined they were both trying to intimidate Derek right now. She grabbed Harlow's arm and started dragging her quickly to the pool. The elevator door opened to the bottom level of the house. Hannah saw her brother splashing in the pool and Derek sitting in a chair nearby looking uncomfortable. She gave him a quick smile and went to change with Harlow. Hannah and Harlow stepped out of the changing rooms in matching suits. Their mother had kept them in matching outfits as long as she could, but by the age of 8 they had begun to complain so much she stopped. The one thing they still let her do was buy them matching swimsuits. It was the only compromise that they would give her. Derek looked at Hannah in her white swimsuit and thought she was beautiful. It was a shame he was almost done with her. She was truly a beauty. He would have loved to take her back to his hometown just once. He would have showed her off to all his friends and made his old high school girlfriend jealous. He had heard she was married and already had 2 kids. He couldn't, though, and remembered quickly how annoying he found her. She was so sweet, and it drove him crazy. There were days when he had to force himself to see her. He knew it was this ability that made him successful when all the others had failed. That, and Hannah's desire to have a boyfriend. But not just any boyfriend. She wanted the perfect boyfriend. She had wanted a love like her parents had. She had blathered on about them from the very beginning and how they were soulmates. He almost laughed out loud now at the thought of that. Her brothers and sisters hadn't been so desperate for a relationship when they had all been approached. He remembered the other team members' frustration when they all were giving reports to Lisa and Steve and when this started. He gave her his sweetest smile and whistled at her as she approached him. She giggled in embarrassment and he cringed inside at the sound of her laugh. He hated that she was always putting on a show for him. He wished sometimes she would just be herself. What an amazing pool, he said to her as she walked up. Harlow jumped into the pool with her brothers, and Hannah sat down next to Derek. She looked around the pool, trying to see it for the first time like he was. The pool was on the bottom floor in the back of the house. 3 of the walls were made of glass that could be split open on hot days. The pool was Olympic-sized, and one side was filled with chaise lounges, while the opposite side had tables and chairs on it. A huge fireplace and barbecue were built into the wall by the entrance. There were 2 changing rooms with showers, and they were stocked with suits and towels. One side of the pool had a slide and a diving board. She had never really taken the time to look at it like a stranger would. It must seem opulent to Derek, but to her it was just a pool. She was glad he had made her see it in a different way. It is pretty amazing, isn't it? She said to him, looking into his eyes and getting lost in them. You want to get in? He asked, breaking the spell. Sure, she answered, only wanting what he wanted. As they swam together and splashed around, she couldn't help but think how perfect he was. They both had a year left of school, but she was certain he was going to propose soon. She had dreamed of the life they would have together. She imagined he would go to work at his parents' company after graduation. She would work too until they started having kids. Then she would stay at home and raise them. She liked the thought of his parents being nearby. Children needed their grandparents. She dreamed of hosting dinner parties and the family vacations they would take. They would be the perfect family. She decided if he proposed this weekend, she was going to tell him the truth about herself. It was time. They all looked up when Lucas and Liam walked in together. They were already wearing suits, and when Liam took off his shirt, Harlow let out an audible sigh. She didn't understand what it was about him, but when he was near her, her silver string always reached for him. He looked at her with his dark eyes, and it stirred her soul. He dove into the pool and swam under the water. He emerged right in front of her, the water dripping off his hair and body. "Hey," he said in his silky voice. "Hey," she said. She watched as her silver string reached out and connected with his. She knew he was going to be trouble, and she was looking forward to it. They met in Derek's room that night. Lisa handed him a ring box. "Don't screw this up," she instructed. He opened the box and looked at the engagement ring. "I won't," he answered. "Go over the plan with us one more time," Stephen told him. "Again?" Derek said, sounding annoyed. "Yes, again," Stephen yelled, and then composed himself. "You will go over it as many times as I tell you to. You work for me, and if you plan on staying alive, you will do anything I say anytime I say it." Lisa put her hand on his arm to calm him down. "Lower your voice," she said through clenched teeth. "I'm sorry, of course. I will go over the plan as many times as you want," Derek said, terrified of the two of them. "Then do it and stop talking," Lisa said menacingly. "I will tell her I have something special and that we will have sneaking out after the party tomorrow night. I will show her the ring box and allude to that something special. We will leave just before dawn, before anyone realizes we've left. We will be in the helicopter headed for the facility. She will be secured, and then I will text you so you can begin," Derek said. "You're positive she will leave without telling anyone?" Lisa asked, knowing this was the only glitch in their plan. "Yes, she will do anything I ask, especially if she thinks I'm going to propose," Derek answered confidently. "You better be right. She's the only leverage we have to make Sawyer come to us willingly," Stephen said. "I don't understand why you can't just use Hannah for the experiment," Derek said. "That's because you're an idiot. We don't even know if Hannah has any power, and if she does, we don't know if she's as powerful as her mother. Witches don't share the same powers, even if they are related. We know her mother is powerful," Lisa told him. "Indeed, she wiped out 4 of our covens. It took us years to recover that part of the experiment, and none of the new witches have been as powerful as Dacia was. It has taken 5 witches to replace the power Dacia had," Stephen said, still angry over the setback. "What if even Sawyer isn't powerful enough to open a doorway to a new dimension?" Derek asked. "Then we will use all of her children at the same time. If that fails, we will wipe out the witches completely. The mission of the Alliance has never changed in hundreds of years, and it won't change now," Lisa said coldly. Simon met his father and uncle deep in the garden at 3 a.m. "Are you ready?" he asked them both, wasting no time. They both nodded in agreement and waved in a door. Julius noticed how big his door had become and saw it was made of gold now. He didn't see the silver light attached to his sun anymore and wondered where its power was coming from. "Is your ether string gone now?" asked Julius curiously. "Yes, but I'm still surrounded by the silver energy. It doesn't flow through me anymore, just around me now," Simon answered as well as he could. "What about the dark energy?" asked Marcus. "It also flows around me, but I have no need of either the silver energy or the dark energy anymore," Simon said, "although I can still use them if I choose." "Where does your power come from then?" asked Julius, confused. "My power comes from within me now, almost like how your power comes from within you both. I don't know how to explain it any better right now," Simon told them. "Are you changed like us then?" asked Julius. "I am changed, but not like you. I don't know how to explain it, but when she comes, she will explain everything. That much I know," Simon said. "You don't know when she's coming though?" asked Julius. "Taya will be here soon," Simon answered. "You know her name?" Marcus exclaimed, surprised by this new development. "I guess I do. The closer she gets to me, the more I know. That's how I know she will be here soon," Simon said, just as surprised. "We at least have a name to research now. That's a start," Marcus said. Julius felt a sense of foreboding in the pit of his stomach. "Let's get on with it then," he said. "Right," Simon said, and opened the door. They all stepped into the darkened lab, and the overhead lights came on automatically with their movement. The room lit up, and they could see the glass room with the large hadron collider in it. Across from it sat 5 boxes filled with the black mist. "They have all 5 that they need. I thought they only had 3, Julius said, stunned at the sight. "This is worse than we thought," Simon said tensely. "They must be ready to take Sawyer then," Marcus said. "I will take their heads and place them in a glass box before they ever take Sawyer," Julius said, ready to return right now and kill them all. "Let me see how this works. If I can see how they did it, I may be able to reverse it," Marcus said, pulling up a chair to a computer. Does it matter? They'll soon all be dead, Simon said, waving in the doorway again. Both of you stop and think, Marcus said in a raised voice. Paul was ready to rush into a fray, but never thinking. This work will be documented, and killing the three of them won't stop anything. It will only bring people we don't know to take up where they left off. This madness will not die with them. If you want to keep Sawyer safe, then we must be smarter than these humans, Marcus told him reasonably. Simon looked defeated for a moment, and his shoulders sank down. We will stop this, but we must stop it at its source, Marcus told them, and began typing into the computer. What can we do to help? Simon asked. Go get your brother. I need someone who can understand all of this data. I don't have enough time to do it by myself, Marcus said, not looking up. What if I could give you all the time you need, Uncle? Simon asked, just now realizing something. I would need days, Simon, and you don't have days to give me, Marcus said, still not looking up. If I stop time, you will have as long as you need, Simon said. Marcus looked up, annoyed with Simon's interruptions now. No one can stop time, Simon. It's simply not possible. I can, Simon said confidently. Marcus slammed a fist down on the desk now. He didn't have time for this nonsense. Time is only a concept, Simon. It can't be stopped because it doesn't exist, he said. It does exist, Uncle. It is always in forward motion, and anything in forward motion can be stopped. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. If we can look at a memory from time past, then time can be stopped. Simon tried to explain this theory, but was getting frustrated. How do you propose to stop it then? Asked Marcus sarcastically. Like this, Simon said, and snapped his fingers. In that instant, everything became silent, as if they were in a soundless void. The machines had stopped humming, and the tick of the clock could no longer be heard. The hands had stopped moving. Even the floating mists were frozen in place. Marcus and Julius looked around them all in awe. How did you do that? Asked Marcus. Simon shrugged his shoulders. I just thought about it, he answered, looking around at the eerily quiet room. How did you know you could do that, though? Did your fingers cause it when they snapped? Asked Marcus, amazed by his nephew. No, I just snapped for dramatic effect because you were annoying me. I honestly don't know how I knew how to do it. What I think just happens now, and the bigger my door becomes, the easier things become, Simon told him. Can you still get Paul? Asked Marcus. Yes, Simon said, and waved his door in again. Have you ever seen anything like his new powers? Julius asked Marcus when Simon had left. I've read myths and legends about powers like this, but I've never seen such a thing. We must start considering his powers come from a mythical source we don't know anything about. In my experience, all myths are based in fact, Marcus answered calmly. What about the woman he keeps saying is coming for him? Julius asked, feeling fear for the first time since the change. I think we should believe him. He seems to know more than any of us, and he's confident he has nothing to fear from her. Perhaps she is the source of his power, Marcus mused. Simon and Paul walked back through the doorway together. Paul was dressed in a t-shirt and pajama pants and still rubbed the sleep from his eyes. He dropped his hands from his face when he saw the 5 boxes. It's worse than we thought, he said. Yes, now get on that computer and start looking at this data. We have to figure out exactly what they were doing and why they were doing it, Marcus told him. Simon and I will look around the facility to see if we can find anything else, Julius said. Marcus nodded, and they all set about their task. The next morning, when everyone woke up, they all commented on how well they had slept. Everyone looked fresh and felt energized, except Paul. He looked haggard, like he hadn't slept in days, and still wore his pajamas when he came walking through the door. Sawyer noticed Julius and Marcus and Simon all wore the same clothing they had yesterday. Sawyer took one look at them and said, Okay, tell me what's going on.